Xal'atath just got owned. The consequences for the story are huge, and that means the consequences for the game are huge. Let me show you something kind of insane. This is Karesh, the homeworld of the Ethereals, and it's actually the final cutscene of patch 11.1, essentially the post-credit scene that is teasing what's next for the game. And we've today got to go through a double cross that involves one item, the Darkheart, and 3 players, Xal'atath, Gallywix, and Phase Thief Azir, the guy who we see in this final shot looking on what certainly appears to be the heart of a broken world. Now today's biggest loser is Gallywix, because he's dead. But Xal'atath is really not far behind. She's actually been outplayed, and today you will know the full story. And I've got to say, after sitting through the jailer for all that time, it's nice having a villain who actually loses sometimes and who actually has to fight for their cause. Okay, let's explain the story. I've also got something really unsettling, but I mean, it's kind of neat. So, a group called People Data Labs had my personal data. That is, until today's sponsor, Incogni, got my data taken down. And that's just one of the 145 data brokers that they have taken my information down from. And if you'd like Incogni to cover you, just use my link, incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft, and you'll get 60% off their annual plan. Let me explain all this, right? So, whenever your data's online, be that normally or just through a data breach, which is kind of out of your control, data brokers are firms that exist, they gobble that data up, and they make money by selling that data on. And sometimes that just means spam or scam calls. Sometimes it's, well, a hell of a lot worse, which is bad for our security. Now, we can legally take our data down, but that means, you know, manual work, forms, and the data can just get back up again, in which case you'll have to do all that work again. Incogni just automates all of that. It takes your data down, it adds you to suppression lists that block recollection, and it continually rescans so your data is actually kept down. I mean, just look at my dashboard and you can literally see them working in the background. I suppose I think of it as like digital hygiene. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do feel a bit better knowing that I'm not on People Data Labs, whatever the hell that is. So you'll get 60% off an annual plan at incogni.com/Bellular Warcraft. I use them personally, and I very much have kept my annual subscription. To understand the final shot of 11.1, we need to understand this one. This is the moment that Illyria cracked the Darkheart, and that threw Xal's carefully laid plan into chaos. To continue, Xal would need to get the Darkheart fixed, and that's where the goblins come in. And that's because, well, the goblins originally made it. You see, the Darkheart was a prototype of the Dragon Soul. Dragon Soul was an artifact designed to contain immense power, and it was made to Deathwing's design by the goblins. So that's why Xal'atath turned to them. They're clearly the bunch who made it originally, and more specifically, she went to the Darkfuse goblins. They're basically the ones who made Garrosh's war machines, and it's their designs that actually armed the Iron Horde. And Xal cut a fairly simple deal. And this wasn't hard for her because she was already working with them. You see, she needed black blood and they needed weapons. That's why we saw the Darkfuse goblins during the War Within 11.0. And, well, as it would turn out, they were in Gallywix's pocket. This worked, of course, for both sides. These black blood-infused weapons are quite something. They do disintegrate people. But when Illyria struck the Darkheart, well, the deal had to change because now she needed the Darkheart mended, and she needed it mended fast. That sets the stage. But we had no idea that any of that was going on. All that we knew is something bizarre happened in the Ringing Deeps. It's immediately obvious that black blood extraction is stupidly, grimly brutal. So brutal that the operation head Pamsy, in a bit of an act of desperation, blows a hole into the Ringing Deeps. That's how we find out. So we catch wind of this. We band together with Orwena and Gazlo, and we end the Black Blood operation. Then we make our way to Undermine. And in this opening cutscene, Gallywix is asserting his power over the cartel leaders, but once alone, Xal'atath appears to him. And the power dynamic is rather flipped because she needed that Darkheart repaired yesterday, but it's not yet fixed. Now, Xal'atath obviously doesn't trust Gallywix. He's Gallywix, but from her point of view, well, the goblins are the people who know how to fix this, and that means that Xal'atath actually didn't have much leverage, other than her being inherently, you know, kinda spooky and threatening. The thing is, none of this was known to Illyria, though. We were only there to bust the Black Blood operation, but by investigating that operation, we would stumble upon a warehouse in downtown Undermine, and that's where things would really kick into gear. Along the way, we noticed something a little odd. Goblin-made ethereal detecting robots. What the hell were they doing there? Well, the answer was fairly obvious because we then found a letter from the very ethereals that those robots were built to detect. And this letter basically warns us to stay out of their affairs, which, was kind of a surprise to us, but we have the more pressing matter of wrestling Undermine from Gallywix, who had beaten the cartels into submission, with a good example being Marin Noggenfodder. You might know him from his famous elixir, back of course in WoW Classic. In this case though, his wife and his daughter are held hostage, and it's with the Noggenfodders that everything ends up converging. So, our Black Blood investigation leads us to the Darkheart, which of course needed the blood to be repaired. And after following a lead to Zandalar, we return to find the Noggenfodders' compound flooded with ethereals. Thankfully, Valyria is on hand. We're able to fight them off. We follow clues, and soon enough, our quest to free Noggenfodder's family leads us to Gallywix, Darkheart in hand. But as we very soon find out, everyone was played. We were played, Xal'atath was played, and Gallywix was very much played. Okay, let me set the scene. We reach the warehouse only to find Gallywix's elite guard dead, and they've got ethereal fire in their bodies. We press on though, and we find a gloating Gallywix, because for him, it appears that everything's worked out perfectly. He's got his guns. They're really cool guns. Xal'atath's got her trinket, and Undermine will be his forever. But still, he's got the repaired Darkheart. Xal'atath hasn't picked it up yet, so he could leverage her for even more. But that's when Faye's thief Azir appears. He effortlessly rips the Darkheart from Gallywix's hand, gives us a real hilarious looking cutscene, and then he disappears. Gallywix is a little bit spooked. He makes a quick exit, and for us, it's definitely quite a loss. I mean, the good news, we've saved the Noggenfodder's family. The cartels are on side, but from our perspective, well, Gallywix has escaped, and an ethereal has just got the Darkheart. Now, we've seen Xal'atath work with ethereals, so we just assume, oh dear, Xal'atath has won. But if that was a bad day for us, Gallywix's day was about to get a whole lot worse.
It seems your time has run out, Gallywix.
Xal'atath, you got here just in time.
Where?
What?
You gave it to the ethereals?
He wasn't working for you? I didn't know. I swear. Hey, we can still fix this. Just help me stomp this rebellion.
You have outlived your usefulness.
Yeah, those ethereals weren't with her, so Xal is pissed. And sure, Gallywix could have cut a deal, and he could have double-crossed her, but it's not like he handed the Darkheart over in a planned, willing way. No, Gallywix slowly realizes that these ethereals were not working for Xal'atath, and that, like with Queen Ansarek, well, he was no longer useful to her. So, Xal'atath is furious, she leaves, we liberate Undermine, and then we play the epilogue. Of course, the epilogue being a bit more spicy because the only reason the ethereals were able to get the Darkheart is because they, realized that we were going to end up finding it and they trailed us, so we kind of did all the hard work for them. Okay, here's how Xal'atath got completely owned. Let's break this scene down. So that's Faye's thief is here. He's got the Darkheart, and he's standing in front of what looks to be the remnant of a void-corrupted world soul. And given all that we know, it's almost certainly Koresh, which is the fallen ethereal homeworld. Now, I say fallen, not destroyed. You see, the lore there is that yes, the Void Lord Dimensius was summoned in, right? But the ethereal's mastery of arcane magic ground his invasion to a standstill. They unleashed so much magic that they basically lost their physical forms. That's why they're inscribed in bandages. We actually know little else, but using our eyes, it sure seems that this looks like a world soul suffocating in void energy. And I'm not going to go on a massive tangent about, oh my god, the swirlies line up, but suffice to say that swirl that we see, well, that swirl's in the Emerald Dream and loads of other places that seem world soul coded. So it absolutely does seem like that is the world soul of Koresh. And that sparks a question. What's actually happening? Is Xal'atath bad at her job, and who's behind all of this? Well, we know that Azir stole the Darkheart, and thus far, we've only seen the Darkheart absorb energy. So we could just say that maybe Azir wants to consume the last of Koresh. But I actually don't think that's it. No, I think that he will use the Darkheart to waken Koresh as a Void Titan, or something similar to that. It would essentially be a Twist on Legion's ending, right? It's the idea of a world soul being bombarded with energy that's well established in the game, and the Darkheart has a hell of a lot of energy. It's got the weird void essence that made Galakrond such a hungry boy. It's got the energy of Dalaran, which is a lot. It's got Bellular and likely loads and loads of black blood. That leaves us with 2 questions, and the next one to tackle: is Xal'atath bad at her job? Let's review Xal's performance so far. So after outplaying us through Dragonflight and much of the War Within, she's actually now lost twice in a row. Her other minor defeats, like say Magni cleansing the Halls of Awakening, I don't really think count that much to me because I think those were basically distractions. But what's core here is the Darkheart is the linchpin of her plan, and it's now in the hands of the Ethereals. And while her and the Ethereals are both of the Void, and there are Ethereals who she's allied with, these guys are clearly not friends. And I think that's what makes Xal'atath a great villain, actually. She can lose. Her plans are in-depth. They're often very successful, but it's not an impersonal, pitiful mortals, jailer-style mastermind piece of mush. She has got to fight for her victories. She actually gets visibly pissed off and furious. That kind of makes her more dangerous. And the basic fact that she's had to fight from a position of weakness to get her victories has been true for all these years, where she had to operate stuck in a blade and purely just manipulate things. And I think that makes her a pretty damn great character. That's why I'm excited for the future. So let's talk about that. The stage is set for both her and us to converge on Koresh. Obviously, she needs the Darkheart. If its energy is spent, she will lose. And if it's spent on waking Koresh, then that will be a threat that we will need to stop, and probably also that she will need to stop. I imagine anyway. But if we thwart Azir's plan before the Darkheart's energy is spent, then we will risk her getting it, and that can't be good. Which kind of begs a question. Who are these Ethereals, and what does Xal'atath actually want to do with the Darkheart? Now, on this front, I have damn good news. I have a deep dive on these Ethereals linked below, but maybe what you should really watch next is this deep dive on Xal'atath's identity, because especially after watching this video, it will blow your mind because the clues have literally been in front of us the whole time. We just didn't notice it, so I hope you enjoy.